And welcome back to this edition of Critical Mass Radio Show. I am your host, Rick Franzi. We're talking all things Women Business Enterprise Certified today here on the program. It's one of our special roundtable editions, and we have a great panel of people of talking here. We've got another couple segments to really dig into it. But before we do that, I just want to let you know that all of our shows can be heard as podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher.com, Spreaker.com, several hundred former guest websites, companies whose CEOs have been on our show, and they've put the interview on their website, as well as various other business-oriented podcasting services. Each month, we have several thousand downloads of the various podcasts, and hopefully you'll become a regular listener as well. All right, before the break, Rachel, I'll start with you. I said, can we... Is it possible for a man and a woman who own a business to still apply for a WBE? We heard minority, majority. How's that work?
Well, the woman must at least control 51%.
What do you mean by control?
I mean the shares of the company need to be issued in her name.
Okay.
So that's control.
Okay.
She typically, the certifying entities want to see that she has the highest office within the company.
Like CEO, like Michele has?
Like CEO, like Michele has. And that she is involved in the day-to-day management and the executive decisions that are made for the company.
How do you prove that or demonstrate that?
Well, how you prove that, how you demonstrate that, that's your resume is submitted as part of this, and in your resume you're documenting what your duties and responsibilities within the company are. Your company history needs to describe how you got to this point and became owners. I will tell you that about half of the husband and wife teams that come in to talk to me about that we're going to do this because we've run this company together all this time and now we're going to do some changes, about half of them turn around and never come back.
Why?
Well, if the family just doesn't want to either not be 50-50.
Oh, okay.
Right? Or
they're not willing to make the commitment to the things that are required.
That's correct.
Okay.
But it's not unusual for a husband and wife team, particularly, to see her running almost everything and he's doing the physical work of whatever the company is providing.
Okay.
But there are times that he doesn't want to give up that president
just
kind
in
of
case,
thing
yeah,
right out there in the marketplace.
Guys with their egos. What role do you play then? You're not the certifying entity. What is your role in your firm?
Through Tri-Circle Financial Strategies, we will help a company put together their certification packet.
Okay.
So we take them through the whole process. It's a rather long and involved process, which I'm sure Michele will share a little bit about her experience with it.
Okay.
I have seen where we've had to refile tax returns because even though the woman owned 60% of the shares, they've been filing their tax returns as 50-50 owners, and they don't do company minutes. And so there's a lot of things that are involved in putting a packet together. Currently working with a second-generation business, and their packet's going to be about 6 inches thick.
Jeez.
Before it gets submitted.
Okay. And the agency that reviews and approves is?
There are a couple of them.
Okay.
There's the Supplier Clearinghouse. There's WeBank, which Michele has indicated already. There's the NWBOC, National Women's Business Owners Corporation. And there's and I'm going to get it wrong, the Minority Supplier Development Corporation. I think, John, I got that wrong, didn't
NMSDC, National Minority Supplier Development Council.
That's right. You're going to learn more about acronyms doing this process than anything
these quasi-governmental bodies, they love them. Okay. So, Michele, Rachel gave us a good overview. You're a direct participant. What was it like for you to go through the process?
We set up the company knowing that we wanted to be a WBE.
Why?
And
sorry to interrupt you, but why? You're so forward-looking.
One of our clients that we already had at the time, we already had to submit and at the end of every project, what percentage of our work was completed by WBEs, and they were always looking for a certain percentage, not just WBEs, minority, the whole group.
So the subcontractors that you were using.
Yes.
Okay.
And so we had that plan, so we went ahead and we set it up 51%, 49%, but we did make an error in that I believe I was secretary, treasurer, and my husband was president. So we went through the process and did not talk to Rachel first, and were denied. And so then I had to go back and find out, well, what trumps a president? And it's a CEO. So because he was not going to give up president.
Okay.
So all the husbands out there, make sure you can still be president.
Yes,
She just
that
needs to
sounds
be
good. I'm the
CEO.
president.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes, Mr. President.
So, unfortunately, you have to wait a year once you're denied.
Oh, really?
You do have you can, I can't remember the correct term, but petition and see if they'll accept whatever your reasoning is for what they're denying you for. But no, we had to wait a year, and in that time I met Rachel and we went back and made some other changes. As an example, we adjusted our trust. So my share of the ownership of the company is in a separate trust because it originally fed into our family trust, and that is not how they want to see it.
Wow.
Because it needs to be at separate 51%. So there's certain things like that. It's worth taking the time to meet with somebody ahead of time, especially if you know you're going after a client that wants this certification. So the second time around, we were certified, and we still get to. So we're president and CEO.
Okay.
And it works.
All's well.
All's well
Again. Yes. So, John, has it been your experience on the other side where companies are coming to you saying, "Man, I'm going through this process. Can you help me out or give me direction?"
Oh yes, we experience that actually quite a bit. At the company I work at, we have a supplier diversity group. It's a small but very mighty group. They're an extremely helpful group of people. Within their staff, they have people who specialize in WBEs and Native Americans and other minority ownerships and service-disabled veterans and so forth. And so we offer out the service of just helping people navigate through this circuitous process that Michele was just describing. Mm-hmm. And we find that generally it produces two results. One, the getting through the process seems to be a little bit shorter when we help them. And then two, we get the benefit of having a new supplier on board who has at least a good bit of loyalty towards us for the help that we have provided.
I would think. Rachel, do you want to add anything to what we've been saying? I thought I saw maybe a thought there that...
No, that's fine. I was going to say also at the utilities, they will help once you are certified. Go into and find the right departments.
It sounds a little bit
through that.
Sounds a little bit like a maze. I mean, not well-intended organizations, but they have certain requirements, and you've got to follow the process, right? I mean, they're being audited and watched too, so it has to have integrity. It sounds like
they certainly do. If I could jump in and add one thing back to an earlier discussion that we had relative to the public utilities, in the state of California, the water, the telephone, the electricity, and so forth, there is actually some regulation, some law that governs the fact that we must have programs, and that's General Order 156. So if folks wanted to go and research that, they could go and have a look at it. So
and that's
that
from
program,
the state?
That is part of the California regulations, yes.
Is the federal government also taking a look at this as it relates to utilities?
They may be in other areas, but that hasn't affected us,
okay.
At least not up till now.
Because I seem to remember if you do business with the federal government, they're also looking at your distribution of business, right?
In February, of 2011, the Fed's SBA issued a woman-owned small business certification.
Okay.
And that was after 5 years worth of study that identified, let me see if I can get it right, that 89 NAICS codes were underrepresented in federal contracting. And so there are set-aside programs within some of the departments of the federal government for WOSB. So you could be a WBE and a WOSB and an economically disadvantaged WOSB.
Okay.
Again, this alphabet soup of certifications and departments, etc., that you need to become familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But one of the, if I could jump in and add one other thing, one of the things that we find is that we really should have our supplier community reflect the demographics within our service territory, and that's simply good business to do it that way.
That's good, being a good community citizen too, isn't it? All right, we're going to take our second commercial break here, and when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation about Women Business Enterprise Certification. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back after these words from our commercial sponsors.
UPS Protection has been protecting systems in the U.S. against brownouts, blackouts, and poor quality power for over 25 years. We provide power protection systems, including UPS, lighting inverters, generators, and service for clients from coast to coast. We specialize in solving all your power needs. As a direct reseller of the best brands in the industry, including Liebert, PowerWare, and APC, we can solve all your power protection needs. Protecting your power is our main goal. We offer on-site or depot repair of our critical equipment. To better serve your budget constraints, UPS Protection also offers both reconditioned and new products.
If you are an Orange County business executive, this message is for you. Do you ever feel isolated with no place to turn for advice or feedback? Who holds you accountable to your commitments in your company? Where do you find the right resources to help you and your company grow? If you have these questions, then Critical Mass for Business might be the answer for you. Critical Mass for Business is committed to helping you make better decisions. These are groups of peers running businesses just like you, providing a great sounding board to test ideas and concepts, review plans and goals, and present issues and opportunities for discussion. The result is improved strategy, accountability, people, and execution skills. If you are interested in learning more, go to www.criticalmassforbusiness.com and learn more about our executive peer group.
Successfully navigating the changing world of public relations and digital marketing requires an experienced, tenacious, yet gracious team. In business for more than 20 years, Orange County-based T & Company delivers big agency results with personalized service. For more information, call us at 714-536-8407 or visit us online at tandco.me.
Welcome back to this edition of the Critical Mass Radio Show. I am your host, Rick Franzi. You're streaming live on octalkradio.net. One of the things that we were talking about during the last break was the length to which the certifying bodies will go to ensure that you meet their qualifications. And Michelle was mentioning that they actually came out for a site visit. Can you give us a little background on that?
They scheduled, once our package was submitted, they had reviewed it, and before they don't tell you if you're approved based on the paperwork you submit until they come out for their site visit. And after the site visit, you find out whether or not you're approved. They want to see that a woman is actually managing and running the company. And to do that, they look in your files. What documents have you signed? Have you signed lease agreements?
Wow.
Have you signed...
Yeah, you're just sitting in the big chair in the corner
right.
office, huh?
Do you sign checks? Are you on the account to sign checks? They really want to see that you are running the company, that you're not just... at home and your name's just being used.
Right, which would seem like a scam that some entrepreneurs might consider.
Yeah, I do site visits for the NWBOC, and a few years ago I went out to an aerospace manufacturer, and the sister was supposed to be the 51% owner and the president of the company, and she had the receptionist desk.
Jesus.
You know, went through the whole process. Yeah, which was funny, right?
But I mean, it's just like...
so
really?
I politely did the interview, etc., and then went back and said no. But,
Yeah.
you know, so it truly is the last step, but also can be the difference between the smell test.
Right. And one of the other things, John, you brought up, which I thought I'd like to ask you maybe just to share with our audience, a little bit about the supplier qualification that comes into qualifying a supplier for a large corporation.
Right. So in addition to looking to see if our prospective suppliers are actually truly certified women-owned or other diversity-owned companies, we also have to do the due diligence of doing a technical and a commercial supplier qualification of their company. So one, on the technical side, we want to see that they actually have the skills and the people and the right equipment and the experience and a track record, a resume of having done this sort of work before that they're proposing to do for us. And then on the commercial side, we also want to look at things like, well, what does their financial statement really look like? do they have the ability to fund payroll, for example, within our payment terms? Or would we, in the process of awarding them a large contract, simply drive them out of business? So we do our due diligence both on the technical and the commercial side and assure ourselves that they are truly viable and that they're what they represent themselves to be, to do business with us.
When you're doing that, are you holding each entity to the same standard then?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's
right.
Agnostic to their other certifications.
Right.
That just are you a good supplier for us?
Right. Now, that said, there is additionally a question of scale. There are small businesses and medium businesses and large businesses and even some that are very gigantic. Some of our suppliers are actually bigger corporations than we are. But when we're looking at a small or a medium business, particularly one that's fairly new in the marketplace, we may very well qualify them conditionally, and perhaps the condition might be no contracts more than $250,000 or some other number, so that we know we're not setting them up to fail in the process of awarding them business.
Sounds like you're almost trying to protect them as much as your own organization.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a liability for us in getting it wrong. So if we start out on a large construction project or even a medium or small construction project and the supplier fails in the midst of it, there's a real problem because we've got deadlines and regulatory commitments and so forth that we might be trying to meet by doing that particular project.
That's interesting because as you were explaining that, I was thinking, I guess my personal bias coming into this is most of these companies are going to be small companies, right? And maybe that's why the program started to sort of help the smaller companies get a foot. But is that necessarily the case? Are women-owned businesses that are certified that way, are they traditionally smaller companies?
I would say it's not quite that cut and dry.
Okay.
We've got some women-owned, particularly construction companies, that have quite a bit of capacity and size and financial grunt behind them.
Okay.
One that you might recognize is Arizona Pipeline. You'll see their construction trucks all over the country.
Okay.
And I think they're well over $100 million in size. And it's a second generation owned, now female owned and run company. And that is one of the things that I am seeing is that second generations are going to women as often as they are going to the male side. So when that family is going to turn over a business and become woman-owned, it makes a lot of sense.
That's interesting,
if their market is the right market to become certified and continue to grow. And that is a company that then can show performance because they've been doing this work for a whole generation, and now we're in generation 2.
Okay. And when that happens, the certifying bodies understand that previous to the change in ownership, they weren't women-owned, etc. They passed as long as it's today that way, right?
As long as it's today that way.
Do you have a daughter, Michelle? I need to ask. You have any daughters at all in the business yet?
No, I have 4 sons.
They better get married to somebody you like.
Yes, none of them are actually showing interest in the company right now.
Okay.
So
Well,
perhaps I'll have a daughter-in-law that'll
there you
take
go.
over.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's encouraging though that businesses are being passed on
Absolutely.
to having a son and a daughter. I'm glad that we're finally coming up to recognizing that either
We're
one.
recognizing talent as opposed
Talent.
to male or female just having to take the male in the role.
So, John, you talked about a couple different ways that companies could get certified: a disabled veteran, and a Native American, a woman. Any of those harder to find than the others, or are they all pretty challenging?
Well, they're difficult to identify, and it's a circuitous process to qualify them, as I mentioned earlier. But we've got quite a cadre of suppliers out there now that we oftentimes repetitively go to, and perhaps issue them work in an entire region to work for us. So we've had a supplier diversity program, for decades, and it's now really starting to bear fruit. One of the neat things is our suppliers helping us, our large suppliers who aren't DBEs and suppliers who are, helping us in meeting our goals. So within our program, we have very aggressive goals for all types of diverse business enterprises, including women-owned. And we work, as I said earlier, very hard to meet those goals. And sometimes the suppliers are innovative enough to go and help us and boost up our spend in an area that we might be weak in.
So are you saying, to Michelle's earlier example where people were looking at her to see how much of the subcontractor she was giving out to different, do you also get credit for a supplier that's working with you whose subcontractors are diversified businesses?
Yes.
So those roll up then through you?
Yes,
to
they
you?
they
Okay.
do. So
Okay.
we might, let's say for an example, Michelle had a contract with us, and she knew that we were looking for spend in another category, not a woman-owned business, and if she subcontracted with such an entity, then we could shave down the percentage of spend with Michelle's women-owned company and take credit for the spend in another category.
Excellent.
So there's a great deal of flexibility there.
So Michelle, I've got to ask you off the cuff, this sounds like it could be a really lucrative marketing differentiation opportunity to create some differentiation for you that actually benefits your client in a big way. Have you found it to be that? I mean, you talked about Target, which is very exciting, but are you finding that is the case, that now that you got your ducks in a row, there's opportunity for you with these larger corporations?
There's definitely opportunity. As I said before, just having the certification, it's just that extra step above that maybe another contractor that has all the same qualifications doesn't have. And we also, one of the benefits too is not only are we available to large national corporations, but I have access to other subcontractors, and I've developed a couple of relationships with some great companies that are subcontractors that work for us now that have upped our percentage. So now the clients we already have who want to see minority women business enterprises being used, they see us increasing our percentage participation, and it just encourages them to use us on more projects. It kind of is a snowball effect.
Right. Now, I'm unclear. Do those subcontractors have to be WBEs as well?
Not necessarily. Well, that we fill out a form that basically has everything listed, all of these different diversity certifications.
Okay.
And so they want to see just across the board as many as they can
Disabled
get.
veterans. Okay. All
So
right.
it's not unusual for a company like Michelle's to create their own diversity outreach
It
program.
keeps trickling down,
and it
huh?
keeps trickling down.
Fantastic.
And the bigger that some of these women business owners get, they're creating their own outreach to add to their supplier diversity.
Wow.
That in turn, when they go to a larger corporation or a public entity,
Right.
is it's trickling down.
We actually do include it in our marketing paperwork, our average percentage participation by diverse companies is just another marketing tool.
Right, and you found that attracts those subcontractors to you as well then, right? Because they want to put their wood behind your arrowhead, right?
Exactly.
And partner with you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. John, is there something you want to add?
I would add to that within the community of the regulated public utility companies, there's quite a friendly competition going on every year to see who is achieving the most diversity spend among them all, and there's sort of a pretty good bit of bragging rights available for winning that competition every year.
Okay, so that's interesting, and this may, I don't know how this will set with my audience, but this feels like this is a good application of a government regulation to attempt to change behavior by providing incentives or rewards or at least oversight, right? I mean, you're benefiting from this, Michelle, so obviously it was a good idea for your business. Rachel, same thing for you. John, you're seeing it from a slightly different perspective, but for me, this sounds like this is a smart application of a regulation.
It would certainly seem to. Like I said, the Metropolitan Water District has said by expanding this base into diverse businesses, we've seen a 25% reduction in costs.
Right.
I'm sorry, reduction in costs. That sounds like a good thing to me.
Right.
Right? Better service and reduction in costs. Got to be a win.
Right. And then the diversity piece is the icing on top of the cake, right? From a community perspective.
Yeah, I'm a supply chain guy at heart, and sure, if I can get the same amount of stuff for less money, we'll do that all day long. And if that comes from a diverse supplier, so much the better.
Well, see, we're getting into basic economics and business here as well. Same amount of stuff for a little less money. All right, we're going to take our last commercial break here on Critical Mass Radio Show. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to wrap it up with a strong finish. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Let's face it, not all company challenges are the same, which is why Strategic Market Intelligence can help identify the actionable information you need to be more competitive. Gain a better understanding of your brand, competition, best prospects, or new product opportunities to generate greater revenues in 2015. Call 949-357-9547 or visit www.strategicmarketintelligence.com.
Are you ready to tap into the power of social media to promote your business? It's easy to get social with Turn Up the Volume, the award-winning social media marketing professionals who know how to get results. Drive web traffic, boost sales, get social today. Visit www.turnupthevolume.com. That's turnupthevolume.com.
Richard Franzi is a highly sought-after keynote speaker on topics of interest to CEOs of middle firms across North America. Richard's talks include Killing Cats Leads to Rats, a fascinating look at how unintended consequences of CEOs' decisions impact their firm's performance. Your Gray Matter Matters, which explores how a CEO's mindset can differentiate a middle market firm and define its culture. Richard delivers talks to a variety of audiences, ranging from executive team retreats to keynotes in front of hundreds of CEOs. To learn more about his talks, visit criticalmassforbusiness.com and select the contact page or call 949-887-4104.
Welcome back to Critical Mass Radio Show, streaming live on octalkradio.net. This is one of our special roundtable conversations. We have three people who have deep knowledge in the area that we've been talking about here today, which is Women Business Enterprise Certification. And Rachel, how long does the WBE certification last?
Your certification is renewable annually.
Okay.
And particularly if you have a change in ownership or management, the process might be a little more stringent than just turning in some forms and paying another fee.
Okay.
But it's good for 1 year.
Okay. And then just renew it. Is there ever we want to come back out and do a little more extensive audit even though you renewed it?
WeBank does it every 3 years, is that right? Yes.
And is that a little more intense then, or can't be as bad as the first one?
It is completely redoing the entire process.
Oh, it is as bad as the first one.
3 years. Yeah.
Damn. Okay, well, it's probably for good reason they do that.
Well, yeah, because there is change in ownership and there is change in management. And so maybe a wife can still be on, or the woman can still be on all the paperwork, but she may not be in the office anymore for whatever reason. So it is completely redone every 3 years.
These kind of things sound like stuff that unfortunately these certifying bodies learned only by seeing how people took advantage of the system, and so they had to, okay, now we have to put that gate in there, we have to put that gate in there. Like, they probably don't want to have to do all this stuff, but people have proven to them that if they don't, it doesn't work.
The urban myth out there is that all of those, there are lots of people who faked it, who have certifications that aren't real businesses. But in the last 10 years of the site visits that I have done, it's only that one sister who was sitting in the receptionist desk that I really had a problem. I mean, that was obvious, but it's rare these days. The women really are running these companies and managing them in every regard.
Yeah, because I could see how that would be, an urban myth, and people who maybe want to poo-poo the idea that it's really, they're able to, not to be disrespectful, but I could see how sometimes the old guard would find this a little bit of a challenge.
Definitely. I think that you almost have to go above and beyond, and you definitely have to perform. Just because you have a certification, you still had better be able to do the job.
Right, because it seems to me that you're under more of a microscope, John. I mean, it seems to me, well-intended or not, there's a lot more eyes on these awards to these set-aside businesses. Yes?
Definitely true. In the regulated world that I come from, there's a great deal of oversight. One of the things that's been a kind of a blessing to us is the increase in computing power, and so we now have less jeopardy of doing something silly like not reminding one of our diversity suppliers that their certification period of 3 years was just about coming to an end, and if they wanted to continue doing business with us as a DBE, they better get at it.
Right.
So the computer is helping us do the heavy lifting now these days.
Yes. So Rachel, is it your professional opinion helping companies to qualify that this is increasing interest in the marketplace, or are there more women that are coming to you now to get certification because of reasons like Michele and John have said, or is it still an education of, because it sounds like maybe a pot of gold is too strong of a term, and I get that you got to be a good supplier, but I mean there seem to be such powerful programs and good people who want to help you. It sounds like it's well worth the effort.
It truly is well worth the effort, but the effort to certify is just the first step.
Right.
That the next step is marketing yourself with your certification and then earning the business, as Michele has just indicated with Target. It is just one arrow in your quiver that might open a door to give you an opportunity to bid on a job that maybe you would not have had an opportunity to do before.
Right. Well, I don't know, Michele, in your experience, how would have Target found you if you weren't in that database? Would they have come to reached out to you?
Well, we had already been trying to market to them for about 5 years, and they hadn't. So
okay, so maybe not.
Right, but it gives you just another direction to come at. So it also, I think, legitimizes us when you see that, okay, they have the certification, so they found us there, but oh wow, look, we've seen their name come across our desk. And so you don't quit marketing. You don't assume that because I have the certification, everybody in the world is just going to come to me.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. You do have to. There's WeBank has a web link that you can go on and register. It has a list of all the email addresses for all these national corporations that you can go on each corporation's websites and register your company. So when they go looking, they have easy access to you. But it's a lot of work. You can't just get your qualification and go, okay, come to me.
Yeah, let the phone start ringing, baby,
Exactly.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Let the email start flying,
Mm-hmm.
text messages start coming in. Okay, well, that only makes sense. If you put all the effort and time into getting the certification, that you should then put the energy and time into marketing it, right?
Correct.
All right. So John, from your perspective, are you finding, and is it your experience that it's easy to find these companies, or is it still a work? It sounds like it's kind of a work in process, even from your perspective, with the databases and all the rest of that.
It is a work in progress, and the certifications are obtained, and they sometimes expire or ownership changes. So it's a moving target. We work very hard at it, and we have a very robust database of qualified suppliers, and so we're in pretty good shape at the utility industry, I would say.
Okay, so let me ask you this question then. Let's say a new business just gets their certification and they come to talk to a diversity manager at a company. What should they be prepared to discuss?
Well, generally, I would say that they would need to prove that they are a diversity supplier, women-owned supplier, or other owned supplier. But they also have to bring their marketing and sales pitch and their ability to network. As we've been saying here, they have to win the business. So becoming a qualified supplier only gives the opportunity to compete for a client's business. It never guarantees being awarded business. It has to be won.
Right.
On a competitive playing field.
And does it?